Matters shows for free a week. But if you want to support the channel, there are a few ways of doing it. Hit the like button on each live broadcast or video. This helps the channel grow. Hit the subscribe button and select the all notifications options. Hit the thanks button to buy a super sticker. You can do this on the live chat too. You can also join our Patreon page or buy us a coffee at the link in all of our video descriptions below. We are also looking for sponsors. If you want our latest advertising rates and how you can get involved, then email John at nufcmatters1892@gmail.com. Thanks for watching.
Just a question of taste with you, well, you've gone sour. You want the world plus everything, but it won't work an hour. And now your questions are get creeping and you go and buy our flowers. You throw away the dreams we had, boy. I won't allow it. I said we're gonna fall out. Let's see you get out. I think we're gonna fall out. Just shut your mouth.
Good evening. How's the heads, everybody? I'm absolutely hanging, and I'm sure most of you out there are as well. Those of you who drink anyway, but welcome to the professionals. Good evening to Stu. Good evening to Mitch. Wow, that was some parade. I wasn't there, as everybody knows, but you know what? That was an emotional train ride back to the northeast this morning, just watching that parade in all its entirety from start to finish. It was so well organised. Newcastle as a city coming out and doing what it does best, and you know, it was showing their support for a trophy winning team. It was absolutely fantastic seeing those scenes from, you know, the shots like this one on Percy Street, and you know, that amazing shot of that car park. I mean, how that's still standing. I mean, that's probably one of the shots of the day. Then up, you know, the North Road to the town moor, which had like echoes of Oasis playing Nebworth. It was like that kind of shot. It was just fantastic, you know, to see, and you know, made you really proud to be a Geordie. George, your dad sent us a wonderful video just before we came on air as well from the Irish club. There we go. That's a vantage point, by the way, isn't it? From the windows in the Irish club, looking down onto the bus, and of course they can't stop. So some great footage there. Thank you for sending that, George. Absolutely brilliant. And just amazing to see so many people come out and support. And there was loads of things I could have used off Twitter today. This one really stuck out for me. NUFC Collie 97 doesn't get better than that. Grandad took me to my first game when I was 8 without being able to do anything about it, and I fell in love. Now 85, he's waited 7 years of his life to see yesterday. To spend it with him is a memory I will cherish forever. I love that, Ollie, and I did message you and say, can I use it? And that was fantastic, mate. I loved seeing that. And so many smiling faces as well, you know, getting the messages off everybody on WhatsApp last night. Steve Hasty, of course, was with George and people up at the Irish club, and then down at the Strawberry. Some great videos coming from Steve. And a big shout out to Eddie and Steve from Blakelaw, who love the professionals and love the Amigos. They bumped into Steve Hasty yesterday, so a big shout out to you. As well as those photographs, this one as well was an absolute belter. Sticking out of the advertising board, talk about a vantage point. That is absolutely brilliant. And the last video, which of course I've shared on our social media, but I'm sure you've seen it. This probably wins laugh of the day. I'm pleased to say this guy is all right. Dear me, Howe. I'm sure he had a sore backside, but he's the guy, if you go on to Sven Botman's social media, he took a photograph of him. He was back up the tree. He got his vantage point sorted, so no broken bones, and he managed to enjoy the rest of the day, which is fantastic. Special mention to Eddie Howe as well, because Eddie Howe yesterday, we know he's class. We know the guy is class. But that little speech at the end where he got up, the likes of this guy, Tony Toward, one of the longest serving people at the club secretary, fills the paperwork in, an unsung hero, along with quite a few others who Eddie asked to come forward and lift the trophy up and get their moment in the spotlight. That was a touch of class from Eddie. Didn't expect that. And, just another tick in the box for this gaffer that we've got who does everything the right way. Wonderful day. And I've seen a few other fans. We've seen a lot of praise from fans, but there are some people still slightly jealous that Newcastle managed to win a cup, saying it's a tin pot cup and it means nothing, etc. Let them have their opinion. But remember what Jurgen Klopp said when he won it. Fans of other clubs will say, "Oh, it's just the Carabao Cup." Yeah. You wish you would be here. And that was from Jurgen Klopp on winning the Carabao Cup on beIN Sports. So just remember, when people are saying that, it is important because it's a trophy and it's our first one and it's the first of many. So, Stu, we were all having to watch it on TV yesterday. What did you make of it, sitting in your house watching that, mate?
And he said, what a good he's great. What I think.
Stu, can you hear us?
Don't you know, pump it up, Newcastle won the cup. I've been planning that little joke for a week.
I was going to say as well, we've also been sending a wonderful model as well, Stu, this week. I didn't show it on Twitter the week. I kept it for today. Did you see this?
Oh, aye. That's me, isn't it?
It's you.
No.
It's basically somebody making a Morgan Freeman doll, and they said, "That's Stu Penman."
It is. I'll take that. I'll take Harvey Wealth as well, if that's all right. If I'm a little bit uptight.
Go on, mate. What did you think?
The parade, it just filled us with immense pride of the team, of the city, of the region, for all the slidings we've had to take for supporting Newcastle United over the years, overseas. And it was just a big thumbs up to the players and the staff, and a big two fingers up to all those naysayers. And no club could have done it better than what we did yesterday. And for the first time, you both know, Mrs. P had been away for a month and I'd been away for 17 days in between London and Tenerife, and we got back together yesterday, back in Bahrain together. Not back together, we hadn't split up. We got back in Bahrain together, and she said, we're watching the parade. I said something to her that she said something to me the previous night. I'm struggling to take it all in. And then a tear come from my eye. There was a joke there, by the way. I started filling up, and it was the first time. I know when we're at the match, we got a bit misty-eyed and red-eyed, etc. But it was the first time. I think maybe it's because I've been alcohol-induced for so long over the last couple of weeks. It felt surreal. It felt like a dream. But watching that yesterday, it brought it back to life. It was real, and it was us. And especially for myself, and I won't speak on behalf of Mitch and others who live abroad, because Mitch is more than capable of speaking on his own behalf. But you start saying, "Oh, look, there's there." And Mrs. P was like, "Yeah, I've been there." And obviously she knew Percy Street and the Haymarket and the ground, and it brought back all the memories. And for me, it's like, I was pointing out where the Civic Centre was, and I said, that's where the parade was in 92, 93 when we got promoted. In 20, you had a parade for getting promoted into the top league. I went, yeah, we had nothing to celebrate for years, so I had a parade for that. And just watching the joy, the way everyone come together, it was a thing that didn't surprise us, but at the same time, it filled us with that pride where I think every other set of supporters around the land would have looked, and they can have the little snipes, but as you said at the top of the show, Steve, it's born out of jealousy. You know, they wish it was us, as Jurgen Klopp said, they wish that was us. They wish they had a fan base like us. And it was the first cup. And you're right, it won't be the last. And we're pretty certain it won't be the last, but it'll be the most memorable. It's the first one in most of our lifetimes. And there'll be many a tattoo getting inked on people. And I'm going to get one. I was going to think of which space to put it on and how to make it personalised rather than just like a tramp stamp Newcastle Cup winners 2025. You know, so I need to personalise it to the way I want it, but I won't be getting a scroll for every other trophy we get over the next 10, 15, God willing, 20 years of my life, 30 years of my life, whatever. That one day, as I said last week, for me, I completed football. And it's only just now slowly starting to sink in that we are cup winners. And as you both know, I've been working today. And today's the first day after Eid, which is called Eid, which is like a 3-day, for those who aren't aware, it's like a 3-day Christmas where the Muslim nation's celebrating. And I spoke to a lot of my high net worth clients today, and they were buzzing about our team. You know, not our team as in their team and our team. You know, how Newcastle have achieved something, and it resonates around the world, not just in Saudi Arabia. I've had texts from many different, WhatsApps from many different countries. Happy for me, happy for the team. And it does fill you with pride. And for all those snipes that we've had to take, it's just, you don't even have to stick 2 fingers up, as I said earlier. You just smile and you can bask in the glory. And for those who say it's only a League Cup, it is. But to win lots of cups, you have to start somewhere. And we've talked about it many times. They've had to beat everyone to win it. And they did. They beat the current top 4 to win it. They outplayed the best team in the land on the day to win it. There was no fluke involved. And watching that yesterday, really, it filled us with emotion. I mean, it might have been gin or Jaeger bombs coming out of us, but there was definitely tears. And it was pure pride and what we've achieved. And the way, I think it was the first tear appeared when Eddie Howe come on the stage and lifted the cup. And he conducts himself with so much integrity, so much discipline. And the word you used before, Steve, is class. And we should be hugely honoured that he's our manager and he's bought into what we want as a fan base, what we want as a city. And he's willing to work harder than anyone to achieve that. But hard work only gets you so far. You've got to have a more than a splash of class, more than a splash of talent, more than a splash of ability. And he's got it in abundance. And we're very lucky to have him. As much as he was wanting to praise everyone else, like you say, Tony Toward, Ray Thompson. It was nice to see Tomo getting a good mention as well. But that's the type of guy he is. He's shy. He doesn't want to take the accolades. He doesn't want to be in the spotlight. He allows others to do it. And for those who just said, look, we should be... I think it's a type of reflect, really. I think that's what I've been doing the last 2 weeks in between sips, is reflecting on what next. And Eddie Howe mentioned that yesterday, and we've got 10 games now, and I really think that we will achieve the target. They've all had a taste of it, and I know Mitch will talk a bit more about Isaac, etc. But I think any player who was on that bus yesterday who played a part in that achievement, they'll find it hard to go anywhere else. Money's not everything, and the grass isn't always greener on the other side. And I'm sure we'll pay him enough to stay. So I'll leave that bit to Mitch. But just to summarise, huge, undulating amount of pride. And long may it continue.
I'm laughing at Dean's comment that Asula's off his lips. Him, mind.
He's
like an 8-year-old with ADHD and a big bag of blue Smarties, isn't he?
It's infectious, like it's infectious. He's settled right in, hasn't he?
Oh, and what I love is the way a lot of the senior players take to that.
Yeah.
You know, the first person he would bloody Dan Burn runs to when he scores that goal, Asula on the touchline. They're off, Bruno and Joe Linton are off dyeing their hair. Who's with them? Asula. Oh, I went for a bit of that. You know, it reflects what he was bringing to the dressing room as an individual. And what we were talking about on Friday about Eddie's ability to connect with people on different levels and in different ways. And that then goes through the squad. And as he demonstrated on the stage yesterday, to the backroom staff as well. Yeah. Phenomenal. I'm going to say yesterday is a message to the world of football that joy is back in the game. You're allowed to have fun and you're allowed to celebrate. And if you look at the positive comments about yesterday from fans of other teams, even from some Scousers saying, hey, when your neck's in, this is amazing. This is what football should be about. We had... You know, must commend everybody as a city and as a region. Close to 300,000 people there. Last I recall in the census, the last census had Newcastle at 307,000 or something like that. You know, so it's obviously not just the city, but the wider region that Newcastle United represents. We're a club of 3 counties, 4 in some respects. There's plenty of Cumbrian Geordies as well. And everybody descended on the city. I know there was concerns, but I think fair play to the police and the council and the club. I think they got the balance between wanting to do a fixed event on the moor plus a short bus ride, I think was the right thing to do, and I think they got it absolutely spot on. Everybody got it spot on. And I think as fans and as a community, we came together with joy. And this is what the drum I've been banging on here for years about Newcastle United. When we come together, when we decide to overlook the fact that my dad's bigger than your dad, when we come together and we do things right, this could be the catalyst for something phenomenal. And those players, you look at those players, all the players that were being told are cancelling contract talks and they're off to do this and they're off to do that. There's 2 or 3 pictures of Isaac on that bus with that trophy yesterday, and I'm telling you right now, he's fucking going nowhere. But I tell you something else. I bet all of those players, their phones will have blown up.
Yeah. And
some of those will be other players saying, hey, I want a piece of this. Is this really? And if you look at what some of them have been very honest in their interviews that they've done and the bits they've released about, well, we knew it would be big, but we didn't realise it would be this. And it's still pushing their concept of what Newcastle United could be and where we could be in terms of the footballing world. Sleeping giant being woken up? You bet. You absolutely bet that's what's happening. And I'm telling you now, that one cup win and that celebration yesterday, did you think many players will need convincing to pull a black and white shirt on next season if we're in contract talks with them? No. Sold itself. Because players talk to each other. And like I say, I bet some of them players, some of the young ones in particular, when they go away with England again, when we got people going away with international teams around the world, because it'll be seen, because it certainly was seen here in the Middle East. And it's certainly already making waves here in the Middle East.
What was going to say, what was the reaction like across in Dubai?
Well, obviously, Dubai Mags, we had a good bit of crack on the WhatsApp group that we've got, mainly because of the time, with it being a bit later on and with it being...
Drugs on for everyone, Mitch. Drugs on for everyone. You said you had a good bit of crack.
No, yeah.
He's on one today, isn't he?
It's Mother's Day, but I'm coming with dad jokes, aren't I?
Just because he's been back with Mrs. P and he's got his frustrations out.
Lots of questions coming in. Get them in, and we'll go through as many as we can. Stephen Kennedy, good evening, mate. He says, lads, how good a man manager is Eddie Howe? I thought his speeches and how he handled himself was inspirational. Your views, please. I mean, I think we're running out of superlatives, aren't we, really, Stu, for Eddie Howe? We've given him plenty praise on this show over the last couple of weeks. And like we said, you know, when things haven't been going right, we'll have questioned maybe his formations and stuff like that. But you know what? He's done a fantastic job, and overall, I would say now that his stock is higher than it's ever been.
Yeah, I just want to touch on something that Mitch started there, and it was from Gary Milligan's comment about the sleeping giant woken up. Because in our lifetimes, a few times he's opened his eyes, he's peered around, and then went back to sleep. But this giant now, he's got up, he's went for a pee. He's had a wash, he's brushed his teeth, and he's put his pants and shorts on, and he's ready to go for a morning walk with me. He's up and he's awake and he's ready. But regarding Eddie Howe, without sneering and saying we told you so, anyone who's watched this programme since the start, we were advocating for Eddie Howe to be in the position he's in before he got the job, and we were sneered at. And this isn't an I told you so speech, but he's articulate, he's to the point, and he represents us in a way. I know we haven't been blessed with many great managers, but people will say Rafa represented us. Didn't. Rafa represented himself, but he got us. Eddie Howe actually does not want the praise. He doesn't want the recognition. He'll get that in years to come. He's one of those, like, if you get like Dan Byrne, he's lapping it all up at the moment, but they'll look back on the career, and that's when they realise the magnitude of what they've achieved. He doesn't want to sit and wallow or not wallow, but like sit in the self-gratification of what he's achieved now, because his job's only just starting, and he's made that clear. You know, if he stops and pats himself on the back and allows himself to be congratulated too much, then in his mind, because he's a workaholic, then it takes his eye off the ball. And he has got so much more in his mind that he wants to achieve for our club. And as I said earlier, we should be honoured and blessed that he is our manager. So for those who wanted him out because we lost a couple of games, etc., it's shame on you. But we could, and I know I said this earlier in the year, probably January, I think just after we beat Arsenal. If we win the cup and we lose every other game from now the rest of the season, I still want Eddie Howe to be our manager, because he's achieved something that no other manager in my lifetime has had. But now it's happened. Guess what? We're all, as George says, we're all greedy little ducks, but he's a greedy little duck as well. He wants more. And to get the blood pouring, you need to pick the scab, and the scab's now being picked. And as Mitch just quite rightly said there yesterday, any player or staff who's employed by Newcastle United after what they witnessed yesterday, that wouldn't want to be part of the next one, or the one after, or the one after, you know, then they really shouldn't be involved in football. And what you need is not a steady Eddie, pardon the pun, not a steady hand. You need someone who's going to lead by example. And I think he's shown how astute he is tactic-wise over the last few months, especially against the bigger teams. And bear in mind, this is a man that came in with the remit of, you have to keep this club in this division. And then 2 seasons later, we've been to 2 cup finals. We've been to the Champions League. You know, we've played some of the best teams in Europe and not embarrassed ourselves. And now we've just dismantled what was known until 3 days prior to that, 4 days prior to that, the best team in Europe. And we blew them away. And that has to be down to the acumen that he's got, the belief that he's got in his own ability, but more importantly, the belief he instills in the players to go and do the job. And I know we get frustrated when they drop points that we believe they shouldn't drop, but he'll be more frustrated because he knows how good these players are and he's made them believe they're better than what they actually are. And once he's allowed to recruit in the positions to the type of player that he wants, we will start a dynasty. I think the dynasty's just started and we need this man at the helm of it. And so the question is, are we lucky to have him? I think I've already answered that several times. And we should do everything we can to keep him. Never mind keeping the players, we need to keep him as well. Because there'll be other clubs that could throw the checkbook at him. But thankfully, he's got morals, he's got integrity, he's got everything that we want our players and our manager to have. He's got it all. And give him the leeway, give him the extra say if he's not getting enough say. Because I can't say enough. I wrote something about when one of the fans, didn't I? Was it back in October? How I had a dream of the black and white ribbons on the cup and Bruno and Lascelles holding the trophy. I just didn't see Trippier on my dream, but the other bit was right. And Eddie Howe deserves it, and we need to do everything we can to make sure he's happy and give him the tools he needs to work with, because it made it more satisfying that we won the trophy 2 weeks ago, Steve. We didn't go out and spend, as was suggested when we first got taken over, that they would go out and spend 300 million every window and would blow everyone out the water financially. Because of the financial fair play, as much as it's been a thorn in all our sides, the phrase I've used often is we've grown organically. And without the last three windows, without being added to the first team starting 11, we went and won the cup. So that's got to be a huge feather in the cap for Eddie Howe. The fact that he knew how to get the best out of the players. He's changed the tactics. He looked at the opposition and said, this is how we're going to beat them. And I know I said last week, everyone was loading the praise on Bruno and Byrne and Joe Linton, and rightly so. But I think Tino Livramento, who comes across as a shy lad, but my God, once he starts realising how good he is at football, we'll have one of the best fullbacks on the planet, because that was statistically Salah's worst game. And he didn't go on that pitch thinking, I'll mark him out of the game. He went on the pitch believing you would mark him out of the game, because that's what the manager and the coach and staff made him believe. And when you start to overachieve consistently, it becomes the norm. And I can't wait for this to become the norm, where we're winning trophies. So that's my little speech on Eddie Howe.
Yeah, been fantastic, hasn't it? Been a great start of the second half of the season. We've got 10 games left, but Eddie's proved a doubt as wrong, Mitch.
Oh, and put himself in such a strong position within the club now. It's always a results-based business, and he's delivered something that no manager has been able to since 1969. No manager. No matter how many names we've had in place and how close we've come. So he's put himself in a position to go back to his executives above him and who he works alongside to say, well, I've delivered on my remit. Now, where do we go this summer? This summer's a really critical summer. Mainly because we haven't been able to use the last three windows, really. And we've got some very necessary squad management to do going forward. And it's easier to do it with some ribbons on a cup, because there's some players, like I just said before, won't need any persuasion to come down. They'll see that and say, yeah, I want a piece of that. So that's very easy. And it really, you're seeing the ways Eddie's delivered since the win, and how relaxed he was out here as well. And yet, why do I feel as of today it's laser focused back on the Premier League, and we're going to hit the ground running once we take up some action again in midweek? Because if we can't use the energy that's bouncing around the city and bouncing around the world right now, you know, did you ever think you'd see a Newcastle United flag being flown in Bhutan?
Yeah.
Did you ever think you'd see a shot of over 600 people watching the Cup live in Bangkok in black and white shirts? I didn't ever think I'd see images like that. And my inbox is flooded with them. And some of the images from yesterday, simply stunning. Absolutely stunning. But equally the words from Eddie Howe, at times a little bit more personal, a little bit more emotional yesterday, but that's also nice to see and hear. But I bet he's got them switched on for Wednesday now, and it's business to the end of the season from here. I just really can't express enough how through everything, when we've had times where we've, I think, genuinely had questions, those questions have been answered for the most part. And the biggest question's been answered about when we're actually going to break our duck. Well, it's done. And yesterday was just more than icing on the cake and more than a cherry on the top as well. It's phenomenal.
Yeah, I mean, it will generate new supporters, Andy, as well. And it'll also
100%.
inspire youngsters. You know, it'll inspire youngsters to take up football, to play football. You know, and
I think you'll find there's lots of parts of the northeast, when I touch on about being a club of 3 counties, well, 4. There's some of the mixed areas, some of the traditionally mixed areas, because they are there. I think we'll suddenly, if things stay as they are, start to lean more black and white over time. And I don't think there's anything that they can do about that, because the momentum is crazy. The meltdown on Wearside has been phenomenal. And as petty as it is, I do enjoy a bit of that. And particularly he's my next door neighbour used to be Paul Collingwood. So I really, it will generate interest in Newcastle United far and wide, but also much more closer to home too.
exciting times. Lots of questions coming in. Different questions to take us in a different direction. I'm going to stay on the parade just a little bit longer. Barry, obviously saying, guys, will this win and the coverage of the celebrations bring in bigger sponsorship sooner rather than later? And somebody put in a comment earlier on saying, I bet you Carabao are over the moon with the coverage that they've had off Newcastle winning the trophy. But we discussed the finances and we've discussed, the lack of big sponsors coming in. But I think when you look at Seller, Stu, and what they have done since they came in, they've been fantastic. And if we can, the laser shows that they put on, and the way that they conducted things prior to the cup final, I mean, I had a feeling it could have backfired on us. We don't do quiet. Had we got beat, that would have been an egg on the face moment. But it's worked out, and that hashtag's been really good, and it's been done in the right way. But will this attract more sponsors? Do you think more people will now want a bit of this, Stu?
I don't think it'll attract more sponsors. It'll attract the same sponsors now. The word that we've been pretty consistent on has been justification. And there's now justification to increase the values and then challenge the Premier League. You tell us we're not worth that. And all they've got to do is show a 2-minute highlight reel of yesterday and say, you tell us that we're not getting the sponsors. Look at the viewing figures around the world, the praise around the world. And what Seller did, I read somewhere that Seller have won 80 plus awards as main sponsors of a football team. And this sounds like I'm bragging, but I'm not. For those who watch the show, they know that Mitch and myself went to the Tyson Fury Usyk first fight last May, and there was a similar show on there. If you remember, Steve, had the phone out the car window on the way to show you could see it.
Amazing.
And light in the sky of all it. And so we've always been aware of what Stella are capable of, but now the whole world's seen them. And if you can't get worldwide exposure like that to your brand and be the best in class, that's, for me, that's justified Stella sponsoring us. And it'll justify us being able to ask for more money off potential or future sponsors. And I think if we push the envelope as far as we can, we could be looking to double the sponsor money that we're getting from, as you see on Mitch's shirt there, and you've got Noon. And we've talked about repeatedly the chasm of, or the void of sponsorships that are still there to be filled. And I don't want people to start saying that we were wrong and the club were right to hold the water, because no one, you couldn't gamble that sort of money on winning a cup. You know, no one in that type of business is savvy enough or stupid enough to do so. But the way things have worked out, it should and it will bring a lot more money into the coffers for us to benefit as a team. And thankfully, as you know, I have connections with PIF and many really wealthy Saudi people. They see Newcastle now as their club. There is, and I go back to the earlier shows with Al-Balid, when he was asked many times, as we did shows with Al-Balid, you know, like, is it going to grow in Newcastle? And again, something that both Mitch and myself were consistent on. Football isn't followed in this part of the world or in the Far East like it is back home. It's followed with success. People want to be associated with success. They want to be associated with trophy winners. And since the age of social media exploded with the Facebooks and Snapchats, and I don't even know the names of them. I use WhatsApp and Twitter, but that's about it. But it's football now. The Premier League, as we know, is a global brand. It's become more accessible. And everyone wants to be associated with a winning brand. And we are now the winning brand, and we are the hottest ticket in town. And what yesterday did was emphasize that. So by hook or by crook, or if you're from other parts of the region, by hook or by crook, we've stumbled across a recipe that's going to put so much money into this club over the next few years. And thankfully, PIF don't need to take the money out. They don't need to take the money out and say, right, I need to show 5% return to the board. They are the board. It is their club. It is their money. But what they'll do by keeping putting the money in, they're aware a successful Newcastle United will see their initial investment increase by 10, 20 times. And if they put in half of that, then they've made a 50% profit or 100% profit on their investment. And we're blessed. I know people want to go down different avenues, but we're blessed that we have owners with that mindset and with that wallet. And you know what? We deserve it. We've put up with so much crap over the years. This is our time, and we just need to be, in the words of Mr. Haaland, stay humble and just watch it all happen. But I'll be struggling. I know things change. After the final a couple of weeks ago, both me and Mitch said, right, that's it. We've done it. We've seen what we needed to see. You know, nothing more to see here. We've seen the team lift a trophy at Wembley. Next time we'll pass the baton on. We'll let the younger generation go, etc. That's what we see now. But when it comes to the next time, we want to go again. But nothing will beat that time. Nothing will beat that first time. And if the next one is a Champions League, or if it is an FA Cup, or it is a league, of course, we'll have the same amount of excitement, belief, pleasure, pride, everything. But it was the first one. And we've done it. So I know I talked about it briefly last week, but you remember the first man on the moon. You remember the fastest man on the planet. You don't remember who come fourth in that race. You don't remember who comes second to Roger Bannister. You don't remember the fifth man on the moon. You remember the first one. And that's why I said before that lots of tattooists will be getting their ink ready now, and rightly so, because you can't end up with a scroll. You need well, very long arms, I suppose. I was going to say something a bit uncouth, so I stopped myself. You need very long arms, like Mr. Tickle, to get all the future trophies we're going to get. But for me, we've done it, and there's much more to come. And it is just a start. Even Eddie Howe said, you could see yesterday his mind was already fixing, and he was sending a public message to the players on the stage. We promise you, and he said it 3 or 4 times. We promise you. He said it in an interview on the bus and at least twice on the stage. We promise you, we will give you 100% from now for the next 10 games. He's now already refocused on Champions League qualification. And all we can do is support them. And there will be times, there will be Brighton at home, there will be West Ham's at homes. But for all of those, there's been Arsenal away, there's been Liverpool's at Wembley. And it doesn't mean we should be eternally show eternal gratitude for what he's achieved. But it doesn't mean he should always get a free pass, but he's the first person to know that. And we've got so much more to come. I'm all over the place here. I'm honestly just still filled with emotion from it all.
Yeah, I think we all are. We're all still, we're still hungover as well from the success, never mind the alcohol. Mitch, it's amazing, and we're talking now about potentially bringing in new sponsors. I mean, of course, the new ground is still rumbling on, but this kind of thing and that kind of coverage yesterday that we saw on national news will only help will only help people like Silverstone, won't it?
Being a winner makes it so much easier. It makes everything easier. Being able to show scenes like that and numbers like that. It's interesting. I saw John Melrose there talking about InPost and their involvement. Now, interestingly, they were one of the existing sponsors that they went to at the start of the season. We understood and said, "Would you like to have more of an input and more of a to raise your level of sponsorship?" Because it's easier for us to do that with existing sponsors than dance the dance with the Premier League and fair market values and shit like that. But once somebody's already in, to be able to lift them up as a sponsor is much easier. And to see them all over the coverage yesterday and all over the town and over the YouTube coverage would suggest to me at some stage, now, wonder if winning the Cup's made a big difference to that or not, they've gone, actually, yeah, we're all in now. But isn't that the beauty of being a winner and being able to say to people, can we get you more involved? And so that didn't surprise me whatsoever to see that, because I know they've got a good relationship with the club. And that the people at InPost value the relationship they have with Newcastle United a lot. The football people, I think they're German, aren't they? Originally as a company, and I think they've had ties with Bundesliga clubs in the past. So they're football people, and so that's not a hard sell. But I think scenes like yesterday and the numbers and to say that, look, this is what happens when this thing goes right. I saw another stat today that the number one club in the country for filling the ground. That we've got a 99.9% attendance versus maximum attendance for the season. And it makes me number one out of the whole 92 clubs. Stuff like that's really easy to sell. And I think we're coming to that. And I've got to say, I've been reasonably comfortable with a 65k number. Yesterday's making me maybe think, maybe we should think about nudging a few more on.
A lot of people asking that today in the chat.
We've got to find that balance. It's a difficult one, because what we don't want to be doing is playing in a bowl that looks like Sunderland. We don't want that to become, a regular thing. Even if it's only for the odd cup game, it's not a good look. But it's getting that balance. It's getting that absolute balance right. But I don't wonder, seeing the numbers yesterday, whether there is a bit extra room to flex a few more thousand into that design, and take that chance while we're riding high. Because if we start to add Champions League and cups on a regular basis from here, that interest isn't going to wane very quickly, you know. And so all of this helps when it comes to sponsors. What bang are you going to get for your book? Carabao as a company will be absolutely loving every moment of what they're getting out of, you know, the specifically are Thai based and Southeast Asia based. They don't just do the energy drink now. I think they've got beers, they've got iced teas, they've got bloody all sorts. And it's for them, this kind of exposure is exactly what they need and want, because, you know, effectively their main competitor is Red Bull.
How often can you get Carabao in the UK, Steve? Is it easy to buy in the UK?
I've got to be honest, because I don't drink energy drinks. I've not really looked, but I'll tell you what. I'll make a point when I'm out and about this week to see whether it's like product placed, and see whether it's on the shelf.
No, the reason I asked that is the reason I asked that is because I think it is hard to buy in the UK, but the league were happy to take the money off them for sponsorship. It's big in the Far East. That's where Carabao is really big. It means cow, believe it or not. But Carabao is big in Thailand, especially then and throughout Southeast Asia. That's where it's huge. It's not that huge in the UK yet, but the name's known. So it's about brand awareness. And this has been our argument or our defence of how can the Premier League say things like that on fair market value? Fair market value for who? I reckon the coverage that Carabao have got worldwide, just from yesterday alone, would probably pay the sponsorship for the next 2 or 3 seasons, just from one day. So this goes back to using that word justification again. We can rock up, and I seen something that there was more people at our parade yesterday than there was for Man City's treble-winning parade. That's the league. Was one of the cups. I think it might be the FA Cup and also the Champions League. They had a less of a turnout. So who's the bigger club? And I put a tweet out earlier, it's one city, one club, one love. And there was a caption going along Percy Street. That's what we are. We've always known it. Now everyone knows it. We've always known what we are. Now the whole world's looking at us thinking, wow, and what a brand to be associated with. Who doesn't want to be associated with winners? And that's why you could go to the Premier League and say, Tottenham are getting paid that for a sponsorship. We want the same. Chelsea are getting paid that. We want the same. And I don't think they've got the stomach to fight us. And we've got everything on our side now because not one of them have produced what we produced. Only a successful Man United or a successful Liverpool could have got more of a crowd out than us yesterday. And that's a fact. Arsenal maybe push us up. That puts us at least 4th in the country, fan base wise. So we should be getting at least the 4th best sponsorship. And one of those teams I mentioned aren't going to win anything very, very much in the near future, are they? So we're in a position here where the ball is now in our court. We're not going cap in hand with the Premier League saying, please, sir, can we have a little bit more sponsorship money? We're going to them saying, this is what we're bringing in. Try and stop us, because after Man City have finished with them, they won't want to be taking us on. And we're now going in the direction from the skyrocket that we're on. It seemed to stall, didn't it? It slowed down. Well, sorry, it was only just refueling. It's just about to blast off again.
Okay, halfway through the show, time for the ads. A big thanks to all our sponsors, Skips and Bins. You can find them at their website, skipsandbins.com. Contact them, www.skipsandbins.com/contact. Say hello to low-cost waste disposal with pay-as-you-go and contract waste management. A big thanks to Mr. Vicky's Sauces, handmade in Cumbria. You can find them at their website, mrvickies.co.uk. Email them, info@mrvickies.co.uk, or telephone 01768 210 102. Thanks to our fanzine sponsor, United Group Travel. 3-star plus quality hotels, no interchanges, hot and cold snacks and drinks available on the coach, all excursions included. Their website, www.unitedgrouptravel.com. Email beverly.ugtl@gmail.com. Telephone 01670 632 460 or mobile 0791 666 4174. There are no strangers on our tours, just friends you haven't met yet, and it's just £30 per person deposit. A big thanks to Media Arts for all the technical side of things. You can find them at their website, media-arts.co.uk. And if you listen to us on podcast, you can find us at Sport Social Podcast Network. You can also find us on iTunes, Spotify, and other podcast providers. If you want to help the channel, you can subscribe to the channel. Just hit the subscribe button underneath this video, hit the thumb up, which is the like button, or join the channel. You can also visit our website, nufcmatterspodcast.co.uk, and take out a lifetime membership for £25, which gets you a pen, a badge, a key ring, a beer mat, a fridge magnet, and also your membership card and entry into the monthly draw. There's some Newcastle United events coming up. Friday the 23rd of January sees Chris Waddle and Peter Beardsley at the Tyne Theatre. Tickets available 0844 249 1000 or website tynetheatreandoperahouse.uk. Some summer events to come up as well. An evening with John Beresford takes place at the Crown Plaza on Friday the 25th of July, 7:30 till 10:30. Tickets by hitting that QR code. And NUFC Matters end of season party takes place on the 27th of June. Steve Howe and Steve Watson will be in attendance and will be hosted by Joe Allen at the Tyneside Irish Centre. Tickets available from nufcmatters.co.uk or by going onto Voucher. And we are raising money for Age UK North Tyneside Dementia. On Saturday the 9th of August, Northern Horizon, the Blake 7 convention takes place at the Tyneside Irish Centre. Tickets available from nufcmatters.co.uk. Come along and meet the likes of Jan Chappell, Sally Navette, Brian Croucher, and Sasha Mitchell. Don't forget as well, we have limited edition copies of The Entertainers signed by Peter Beardsley and Lee Clark. Available now from newcastlelegends.com. Okay, welcome back to the professionals on NUFC Matters. George Bainbridge was asking about the Man City case. A lot of people still putting suggestions into the chat that this potentially was all sorted a couple of weeks ago. Do we think it's been sorted, Stu? Do you think it's been done? And do you think we'll hear sooner rather than later? Stephen Kennedy says the 115 charges have supposed to have been sorted 2 weeks ago. Why the long silence?
I think the decision would have been given to both parties, and depend on which side can claim victory will depend on when the case is finally settled. Because if Man City were to be deemed to lose, in my opinion, there'll be another trial. They won't settle until they get somewhere near where they can claim a victory. It's just the manner of the people in charge. It epitomizes the wealthy people in this region. They know success and nothing else, and they demand it and they expect it, and they will fight for it. And bear in mind, if you look at the wealth of their road-ups to ours, that should only fill us with a bit more contentment, I suppose. But we will benefit from that case one way or another. It just depends on how much. Because it's highlighted, if anything, for us, it's highlighted in Newcastle's favour how harsh it's been, especially with the Newcastle rules. And then the phrase I used a couple of times this evening was, do the Premier League have the stomach to have another fight? Because if they were to end up victorious against Manchester City, now it's wrong to say victorious when basically what they're doing is carrying out the will of other clubs. It's not the Premier League against Man City. They're representing the other clubs against Manchester City. So to make the Premier League the enemy is probably wrong to say that, although it doesn't suit the narrative. More like to blast Dickie Masters and stuff like that. But it's the other clubs that are paying for it. It's the other clubs that want it. And if the rules have been broken, fine. But for me, it's been quite clear the rules were amended very illegally, and it's been proven to be illegal after our takeover. So one way or another, we will become more successful. But even if things stay as they are, as we touched on before, we will be in a position where we can add and justify sponsorship to bring more wealth into the club, to give us more spending power. And it's just a case of how much more. But what happened 2 weeks ago in northwest London has allowed us a lot more wiggle room than we had previously. So I think I can't speak on behalf of the fan base. I've never even tried to. But me personally as a fan, I'm not worried in the slightest that we won't have more money to spend, and the ability to add more money to spend, if that makes sense, as in through sponsorships, through different varying ways of increasing revenue. But they have to be careful because the Premier League themselves, I'm sure, I've just seen something there about relegating Man City. That would be disastrous for the global brand of the Premier League. It puts the whole thing into disrepute for 10 or 15 years, doesn't it? So I think there has to be some middle ground, whether it's closer to what Man City want or what the Premier League want, where it looks like they've been charged with something, but they've got away with it. So that's the way I see it.
Yeah, we're just having a little chat on the WhatsApp group whilst you're talking, Stu. That's why we're laughing. I'm trying to find out what in post do, and Mitch has just replied post stuff. So.
What do? Sorry, Chris, I'm on the phone that the group's on.
What does in post do when he says post stuff?
It does that.
Ask a stupid question, you get a stupid answer.
Absolutely. I wouldn't have it better.
I mean, it's fascinating. The stadium thing came out as well, didn't it? Before we went on air on Friday, Mitch, we decided not to go with that because we're in a different direction on Friday. But there's apparently a promotional video doing the rounds. It's already been covered in the newspapers over the weekend as well. And it's lots of questions will come with that, and a lot of people will think 65,000, 70,000, 75,000 is big enough, but it'll be interesting to see what they come with. And Steve Middlemas made a really good point earlier. He goes, filling a 70 to 80k stadium will be possible if they don't price the working class fan out of the club. Now I'm writing an article for the next fanzine about this because I do think that's what is going to happen. I think we mentioned on here, I don't think there'll be season tickets. I think it'll all be corporate.
It's a really difficult balance to get right. And I think there's been some hints already about which way they want to go. I think they have enough people who will just tug their forelock and say, yes, that's a good idea, and not resist. And then hold that up as consultation. I touched on this the other night about the way certain things are going in terms of communication and feedback, not just at our club, but at clubs all over the Premier League. To see Man United's trust effectively be a shell of what it used to be, and dressing that up as their need to keep confidentiality with the FAB and a relationship with the club above everything else. Well, you also need to keep a relationship with the fan base and the people who are your members. And what about that relationship? Or does that not matter anymore as long as you're getting what you want out of it? We saw hints of that. But I'm not going to put a downer on note. I enjoyed yesterday far too much. And I still am enjoying things. With regards to the question about Man City, there's two different cases there still. The APT2 case, which I think outline decision is due in a couple of weeks. And then the 115 charges, which has already been ruled upon, and we're still awaiting some sort of public announcement on a decision. Do you know what my personal feeling on it is?
No.
Remember when Chelsea self-reported their breach and blamed it on the nasty Russian man, and then they were able to negotiate a financial penalty rather than a sporting or points penalty? I'm beginning to wonder whether there's a negotiation going on between Man City and the Premier League about a financial penalty rather than a sporting penalty.
Okay, well, that's an interesting
because
suggestion.
Applying a sporting penalty now is so much unrespective, it skews the current competition and leaves room for appeals and things like that. I think both sides will want it done. Both sides will want it wrapped up and forgotten about and put away. And I think there's a financial negotiation happening. Just
to add, or go back 20 minutes ago when I was talking about everyone remembers the first, and I mentioned Roger Bannister, Neil Armstrong, etc. Our good friend Mr. Steve Bennett just sent me a message saying Chris Chataway finished second to Roger Bannister. And this, and guess, I tell you what, this is God's honest truth. Do you know who the stadium announcer was when he broke the 4-minute mile?
Go on.
You actually know who it is, but I'll tell you the answer. Norris McWhirter.
Oh, was it Norris?
Yeah, he was the stadium announcer, but of course Steve Bennett knew that without checking. So fair play to Steve.
Well done, Steve. Well done. You need to get out more. Brilliant stuff.
Or get on Google more. Or less.
Steve's asked a question which I'll cover Friday. I think we'll look at that, Steve. It is an interesting question, but we'll spend a bit.
Well, it depends where you stand on that, doesn't it? But most of them were standing right next to the players, so yes, I'll leave you to the political side of that on Friday.
Yeah, we'll have fun with that on Friday, I'm sure. Joe Walker, good evening. He says, interesting coverage on Sky yesterday. Do we think the biased broadcasting could be slowly changing in our favour? I would say, Stu, it was probably down to the fact that they knew it was going to bring good figures. I wouldn't say they've changed their minds.
Yeah, it'll take we've mentioned about the jumping from subject to subject, but the generational changes that have been made in Saudi Arabia over the last decade, and things like the BBC, Sky Sports, etc. They will always play, as you've just said there, Steve. They'll play to the crowd, and they'll go for the biggest viewing figures. It's like journalists now. There isn't many real, what we call old school journalists like Gibbo and Alan Oliver, etc. It is all clickbait. It is all for likes. We know Buzz Aldrin was the second man on the windows. Who was the fourth man? I asked. You've thrown us there. What was the question? Everyone now got on about Roy Castle and Roger Bannister.
It might be John Glenn.
It was the third or fourth. But everyone, you've got to think about it. Everyone knows who the first was. That was my whole point. Sorry, Theo, I lost train of thought there. What was the original question?
I've got no idea now. I'm too busy trying to think about the fourth person on the moon. Anyone?
If it was real.
Anyone got the answer to that question? If it was real. Oh, God.
No, it's Steve Bennett's got the answer. Give him a second. Give him a second. He can't type that fast. No, but I've got another question, which is right, tied in with the presentation yesterday.
How good is it being a Newcastle supporter right now?
That's exactly what the show feels like.
What's your favourite thing about supporting Newcastle?
What's your favourite thing about get the Malverno out? Blue Rhythm Boy says, was the timing of all this right with the season ongoing? Great day, just posing the question. I think it's an interesting question, that, and I think you can see why somebody would say that. I would say that yesterday was important. And I think doing it after you win the cup is probably the right thing to do. I think doing it at the end of the season, that kind of excitement and momentum's gone, hasn't it? And I think that kind of show of support yesterday on the streets of Newcastle and on the town moor will honestly, the players will want more of that, and they will be buzzing off that, won't they, Stu? So I think doing it then was right. I think if they put the trophy on the pitch on Wednesday, I don't know whether that's a good idea, but there's been no announcement about doing anything like that. So obviously it's been at the women's game, it's been in the city. I think they'll park it now, and that'll be that. We might see it again on the pitch at the end of the season. But I think it was the right time, and Stu.
It has to be. You've got to strike while iron's hot, and I hope it's not there on Wednesday. And I'm not saying that out of any bitterness or jealousy, because I won't be there. I think the next time it should be shown publicly should be the last game of the season when they do the traditional lap of honour. But they've got something to show. There'll be no one having to leave with a bus 5 minutes or 10 minutes to go to get the train, whatever. Everyone will stay behind for that, and rightly so. That's the next time we should do it, because I think the message Eddie Howe was trying to get across yesterday is, right, we've had our fun. We need to get back to business. We have other fish to fry, so to speak. And I'm trying to say this without a negative slant. I know there was a bit of, not unrest, but questioning from within the playing squad about it being played in front of paraded at the women's game. But we talked about it last week. It was a commercial decision. Might have played into the ego of Darren Eales to allow him to raise the trophy publicly, etc. But you know what? I really don't care about all that, because we've got a cup to show off, and it's the first time in 70 years. So if there's a mistake's going to be made, I'd rather be making a mistake with a trophy under our arms or above our heads than being the so close also rans or the nearly men once more. So it's our trophy, but you're right. I don't think they should put it on Wednesday. The focus, something Eddie Howe reiterated, as I said earlier, on several occasions, the focus has to be on the next 10 games. Then go and get these 10 games out the way. Set yourself a points target, which I know you talked about earlier in the week. My answer was 19, by the way, over the next 10 games. And get that Champions League, whether it's the 5th place, 4th place, 3rd place, or even 2nd place. Get in that Champions League, because there's one thing, if we don't do it, that's on the players, because they've shown they're more than capable of holding their own and beating everyone. So that's where we are now, and I think this is the job that Eddie Howe's coaching staff will have to do, especially after yesterday. They've got to slowly pull them out of the clouds like a balloon and say, I'm going to let you go again at the end of the season, but this time I'm going to put extra hydrogen in you and you can go higher. Because imagine a season, and I know you tipped out at the start, Steve, to win a cup and to finish 3rd. But if you look at those teams yesterday, and this should clearly end the debate of what's more important for Newcastle fans, was winning the cup or finishing 4th. Winning the cup was your answer every single day of the week. And now we will go and finish 5th, 4th, 3rd, 2nd, enough to get into the Champions League. And then this tallies on to what Mitch talked about before. You look at Isaac's face yesterday, and you could tell you could tell Ant and Deck were primed. Don't ask him about his future. Now, there were certain questions they weren't allowed to ask. When I was sitting here on my sofa screaming, ask him if he stayed. And I think for him it would have been an unequivocal yes. But they keep talking about player power in the game. We're aware that agents have power, but I think someone like Isaac could say, do you know what? I know you want extra money, and I'll get extra money from these, and I don't want to go anywhere else. And if they offer me $250,000, I can get 300,000, something plus extra anywhere else, I'm staying here. I've got a job to finish. They showed faith in me, and I think Eddie Howe's instilled that loyalty into the squad, and that's why it's been hard to let them go, to let certain players go, because if I'm asking you to do something, I expect it back. And when they've given it back to him, for him to then say, right, just cut ties, but this is going to be a tough summer for Eddie Howe, whichever way you look at it, because some of those players who represented us superbly at Wembley won't be in the team or squad next season. And some of them, that would have been the peak of their career. For others, it's the start of a trophy-laden career. and it's getting the right balance. And that's another reason why we should be grateful that Eddie Howe is in charge, because he's got a taste for it now as well. He's not chasing anything. He's not hoping to do it. He's went and done it. And I used to own greyhounds in a past life, and what you've got to do with a greyhound is you have to blood them to get them to want to chase the pretend rabbit around the racetrack. Well, Eddie Howe's been blooded now. The players have been blooded, and they're now thirsty and they want more. And Eddie Howe will, I think, be more empowered to make those tougher decisions that he was more reluctant to do in the past about letting certain individuals go, because he wants more now, and he knows with the limitations of the squad he's currently got, he's expanded it to its absolute bursting point, and I don't think it can go further than what we've got. But the key players in the squad will now be looking with very, very keen eyes, saying, right, add to this, and we'll commit ourselves. We're staying. Shows that we don't want to be the best player. We want to be amongst the best players. And you're only 3 or 4 signings away from having a league title challenging team for next season to go and win it the season after.
Is it true with a greyhound that if they have a crap before the race, that's the one that wins?
Well, it makes them lighter, so it is possible, but it also means they're being fed. So it can go either way. But enough talking shit.
It depends on how many elastic bands you put around the hamstrings, isn't it?
No, I'll tell you a story. I met one of my good friends I hadn't seen for a long time when I was in Tenerife, Jimmy Suggett. I know his son watches the show. He was quite happy to tell us his son watches the show. I said, well, why don't you? And he's famed for his positive outlook on life. Not. So we bought a few greyhounds. One of them, if you want to research it, I know Steve Bennett's got his fingers on the Google Pulse right now. It was called Conspiracy Seb, and the Seb stood for S was for Stuart, E was for Eddie, and B is for Brian. And it got rated the best. We call it conspiracy because the 4th person, Jimmy, who didn't get involved with it, said, "No, I'm not getting involved in that. No, I'll never win. You're just wasting your money." And we made fortunes off it. Once it got in front, it never ever got beat. And we had it. It wasn't the Derby; it was the Nottingham National or something. And it was anyway. We're going to win 20 grand, and it had won each heat. It was favourite to win the final, and without bragging, we just landed in Brazil for a company paid holiday. This is maybe 15 years ago. And we got off the plane to listen to the commentary from there, because there was no internet stuff at that stage. You couldn't just log in. So we had to use the phones to ring the trainer, a man called Martin Burt. And he was like, "It's in front, it's first Ben, it's ahead. So we thought we'd won the money. And we had Mrs. P might be listening. Well, she wasn't with us then, but they had a quite considerable sum at 33-1 at the start of the tournament for it to win. So we're counting this money, 33-1 each way. I'll tell you what, £1,000 each way. So we're going to win over 40 grand each, plus the prize money, plus the breeding money on their Conspiracy Seb. And as I got to the first bend in front, the dog behind, as if it tripped it up, like it used to do with kids in the school corridor. It clicked, the heels clicked, and it rolled over and broke its leg. It was never to run again. So not just that we lost the money, we lost the great dog. So we then went and we decided to, obviously he had to retire, but we found him a good home. And we bought another greyhound, and we called it Conspiracy Jebs. So that was Jimmy, Eddie, Brian, and Stuart. We brought Jimmy in. Well, when the blood of this greyhound, we spent quite a bit of money on it. When the dog seen the hair, it ran away in the other direction. It was scared. Now, I know it's not politically correct to say so, but Jimmy, I'll remember this for the rest of my life. He turned around and says, "I can't believe it. The first time I invested in a dog, and it's bloody gay, isn't it? It didn't want to chase the rabbit. It ran the other direction from the rabbit." So the conspiracy there was right. So I caught up with him. I don't know why I told that story, but it had something to do with Jimmy at the start. But anyway, I just thought I'd share that with the watching nation.
Yeah, Steve owns a retired greyhound. He was a Class 1 runner. His race name was XL. We're getting loads. What if all the dogs crap, says Chippers. It's a myth, says Gary. And Andrew says, well, using that logic, can all our players have a crap for every game? What if I start?
It depends, yeah. You could use a lot of energy having a crap, so... If you're feeding it up, but this was a proper good dog. Check it out. It was rated 3rd in the country at the time, and it had won lots and lots of races. Like it was. So there's old videos on YouTube of it. Conspiracy Seb, if you want to check it out.
Send us a link. I'll have to have a look at that. Barking up the wrong tree here, says Dean. Stu the Geordie Brad Pitt caravan for me ma, says JJ.
The tags.
How many Jacob bombs is Stu on, says Denise.
You want to answer to that?
Exactly. Yeah, Mitch. I mean, I think it was the right time to do the whole cup presentation. I think at the end of the season it would have been.
I think the way it's worked out, actually, I know it's frustrating being knocked out of the FA Cup, but the whole way that this has worked out for us quite well, in my opinion. With the players have had a break. We've had a fantastic celebration and an opportunity to use a free weekend to do something that I don't think the country's seen for a long, long time. And that we've delivered something to the world of football that's made everybody sit up and take notice. If you look at the teams that are left in the FA Cup and that are left in, this is exactly the points being made here. You've got Palace, Villa, City, Bournemouth, all still in the. Actually, City are just knocking Bournemouth out on this. So
yeah, 93 minutes gone, 2-1 to Man City.
Palace, Villa, City still involved in the FA Cup. Chelsea still involved in Europe, although they've got a very different European squad to their Premier League squad. And when we're playing some of these teams that close to their cup semis. And so it's all kind of coming together for it putting opportunities back in my hand. I think quite right. I think my dad's absolutely spot on there. The dressing room will be bouncing for the rest. There's something wrong if it isn't after yesterday. And I don't think you can put a value on what yesterday will do for the squad for those remaining 10 games. I don't think we'll need much motivation.
You know what, Mitch? A lot of them will be thinking they will be buying players now, and it could be me that's getting replaced.
I've got to lay a marker down to keep the place next
and there'll be a lot now playing for their futures. They don't want this to be the highlight of the career. They want to be part of the career. So there'll be a lot of players now who might be on the fringes or even in the starting 11 thinking, could I be getting replaced yet?
Right.
I'm going to give them the problem where it's not me. It's not me that's going to get replaced. Because I think all barring Isaac, every player on that team is replaceable with the money that we have available. And that, as you said, if that doesn't want them to raise their game, they're in the wrong sport. But I'm not worried about that. As we said last week, I'm more worried about the games like Brentford and Crystal Palace than I am about playing the Man Uniteds. You know, that's where I sit with it. But I can say us. Do you know what's nice? The Stockholm syndrome seems to have slowly disappeared, or very quickly evaporated. Actually, in the last couple of weeks, no one's thinking, "Oh, it'll be all look Dan Burn after these 2 weeks. He'll get sent up on Wednesday, and we'll get beat 3-0, and it'll be typical Newcastle." And everyone's expecting us to go in there and do it, and we will. You know, so I said 19 points out of the next 30 to be realistic. That puts us up onto 66 points, which should be enough to get Champions League because other teams will be taking points of each other. But I think 19 points should be the minimum standard that they'll be aiming for. And the more they're capable of doing it, we know they are. They know they are. And it's just now it's about their attitude. And if their attitude is switched on and the application is there and the energy is there, and this is why I start talking about the Greyhounds. They've had a taste of it. You know, you want it again, and they've got an opportunity over the next 10 games to get it again.
Yeah,
and that's where we sit now.
Interesting the way that like you say, the fixtures have lined up with these teams now still in European competition, all having to play us usually the week before. Villa, of course, before their FA Cup game now. Chelsea still involved, in the Conference League probably by then as well. So, but the question that I put on the screen before there was, who would you like to see win the cup? I mean, I'd like to see Forest win it.
Yeah,
I'd like to see a Forest Villa final. And I think I'd like to see Forest win it at the expense of their league position and them tumbling down the league a little bit and make it easier for us.
Yeah.
I like to see Forest when I was flying back from Tenerife. I sat next to, and I was saying to Heed today when I was ringing him, oh, he's got a black eye, by the way, the Heed. He went to a wedding yesterday. It's not what he's had done, it's what he tried to do. He tried to do his infamous caterpillar that he hasn't been able to do for about 25 years.
Oh, no.
Not realising how much alcohol he'd taken during the day and landed up with that big noggin of his first onto the floor and he's blacked his eye. He's got a bruise, so he's got a bruised eye and a bruised ego. So get well soon, Mr. Heed.
This is not as bad as his facial carpet burns from 2 years ago.
No, but wait till he gets the bill from the company who laid the dance floor after having his huge heat and put a whole dent in it.
Last question I'll give Tom. I've got two. I might get through both of them, but this one from Tom. Do you think the Gallagher should be fully safe standing?
Well, the people in it or the stand?
Well, I think it means, I guess if we have a new ground, I mean, would an all standing end be something that you would like to see?
I think that seems to be it's like an in-fad thing now, isn't it? To have like something like the yellow wall in Dortmund, like that. Before I go any further, because we're just about to finish, I forget it's Robbie One Punch's birthday tomorrow, and I promised I'd say happy birthday to him. So it's done.
Birthday, Robbie.
Robbie.
Will we have a standing section? I think I would imagine we will. And I still will remain to my figure that the capacity load, the much touted 65,000 has been said over the last couple of weeks. And then people are getting excited after yesterday. And we are very guilty of that as a fan base as well, is going from one to the other. There's 300,000 people there. We need a bigger stadium. That was for free. We still live in economically harsh times and not many people can, especially families, can commit to £50 each. If you're a family of four, £200 just to get inside the stadium. But I still think it appeals to the not just the vanity, but financially it makes sense to have a full 70,000 crowd, and that means they've broke our record home attendance. And I still think that they'll announce it with 70,000, and if there's a standing section in the Gallagher and it appeases people, then it also quashes a lot of will there be an atmosphere. We've lost that. We make the atmosphere. You were at Wembley. You were at Wembley. I was at Wembley. We made the atmosphere. Fans make the atmosphere. It's not our home ground when we go away. It's the fans that make the atmosphere. And I'm sure I don't even know the right words for it because I'm not really musically inclined, but the sound systems or the acoustics, that's the word I was looking for, will be in place to make sure that it sounds louder. And it sounds really, really loud because when we're loud, we are really loud. So when they've got all these hashtags about the noise, we don't do quiet and stuff like that, then I think all this is playing into one narrative that if Tom's asking, will there be a standing section? I think there will. And it'll be something that'll be, I think, was it the whole end was the biggest in the Premier League with 17,000 at one stage. I can imagine that'll be one part. The Gallagher end will be bigger. And they like breaking records in this part of the world. So I imagine the 20,000 all standing part of the arena. And I use the word arena, and I hate that because that takes it away from football. It sounds like soccer. But I think that you will get at least a 20,000 standing section. There will be at least one ring of executive boxes, all paying top dollar. But I think there's now a general air of acceptance amongst most fans that it's an evil necessity, not something we all approve of, but it's an evil necessity. And I don't think the board are that out of touch with the socio-economic situation in the Tyneside conurbation to outprice everyone. You know, there'll be different levels of pricings for tickets, and I think there'll be a big play on getting the youth in. Now, even if it is like a level 7 equivalent, get them in and using the greyhound situation again. Get them blooded into this, into feeling what it is to be a Newcastle supporter. Because a lot of those people in that crowd yesterday, some of them wouldn't have stepped foot inside St James, not because they didn't want to, they haven't been able to. They haven't had that many opportunities apart from the odd pre-season friendly to actually get inside the ground. So a 70,000 crowd would be able to fill every week. And I know there'll be games once we're in the Champions League where we've got the mighty Real Madrid or the mighty Barcelona coming and we could sell over 100,000. Yes, we could. But we couldn't do that for, I don't know, a Brighton at home. And that's the issue. You've got to have a balance where there's still a clamour, there's still a demand, there's still where demand out or surplus, there's a surplus to demand and supply. And for me, 70,000 means it could be filled quite up to the capacity Mitch was talking about before of nigh on 99.9% every game, where it still means if people decide or unfortunately aren't able to go, there's still not people there willing to fill the shoes in. But they need to start blooding the new generation in as well. And I think the 70,000 will allow that to happen.
Yeah, just finally from you then, Mitch, would you like to see like an old standing and like a yellow wall?
I don't think all standing, but I think a significant standing area, the safe standing, is something that I think everybody's looking at incorporating into new grounds. I think there's even a section gone into Everton's new grounds, which will be safe standing. But I think it's how you get the details of it right, and it's the details that are important for me, and how it works and what system you're using and what ratios you've got when you've got to go to all-seater for different competitions and how that conversion works. It's something me and Steve Hasty have talked about at length. My only concern is that do the people who have the clubs have the relevant experience and or information and or ability or will to collect that information from the fan base to deliver the kind of message that needs to be delivered. Conversation for another day, probably. But I do think incorporating, for a number of different reasons, an element of safe standing makes sense. Oh dear God, those toilets. An element of safe standing makes sense on lots of levels, and there is an appetite for it. Let's make no bones about it. There's genuinely an appetite for it. I just don't think the appetite's as big as some people would have you believe that it is. Yeah.
Okay, great show tonight. 1,030 watching live at the moment. Thank you, everybody, for tuning in. We'll never take it for granted. Please, if you're watching on Twitter, jump onto YouTube, search NUFC Matters, hit the subscribe button. We do 7 shows a week. Back tomorrow with the Fans Forum at 6 o'clock. Look forward to seeing you then. Have a good week, chaps. See you later.
Search Conspiracies everybody on YouTube as well. It was a winner. Brave dog.